Here with you again today. I am coming in a little late today because, man, I was up till 3:30 last night. I did a bunch of coaching calls yesterday, the night before, and then we just trying to catch up on a lot of other things, including getting last Tuesday's call edited out. Um, I'm trying a different editor, so it's one of those things. But it's actually finished and it'll be uploaded sometime right after this call. And then hopefully this call goes smoothly and I don't have to do too much editing, and we'll get this call up into the members area as well. And I'm excited about this call today because we're going to go over something that I just find myself using it over and over. So I think everybody here can benefit from it. And that is, you often find, because we deal with these lots. Now we're not buying homes, right? We're buying lots. So typically, what was our customer? Our customer seller, our customer is completely different. That's an older person generally that we're buying from. Not all the time, of course, but mostly it is. And oftentimes they can be quite old, and they've already started getting their estate together, meaning they've talked to lawyers and everything. And if they have a good attorney, their attorney told them to put all of your property in a trust. Living trust, period. Boom, done. That's what they should have told them. So if you're over 50, and that's not old, right? But you need to start thinking about, how you want to hold your and deal with your estate. You need to have all of your properties at least a living trust, if not more creative stuff, as some of you know who've gone through and read my living trust book for real estate investors. But that's not what I'm talking about as much as you are often now going to be buying property from somebody with a living trust. So they have their property, this lot got put into that trust. So how do you buy that without having to call a lawyer, having to go and ask them to go to a lawyer and get all the paperwork that they created, but now needs to be refreshed if they want to transfer a property that's in a trust? Now, this may sound complicated. It is not complicated. It is actually a very simple procedure because it has to be. It has to be because it's done so many times. And so I want to step us through that today. Let's jump into our members area. And good morning, Michael. Good morning. Glad to see you here with us this morning as well. So let's take a look. Before I look at, and of course we know that this is an autofill for us when we're buying and selling properties, and you are using some of my strategies in my living trust book. You know that you want to be working your business in a trust, in a living trust as well, but because we find that we are buying constantly from people that have their property in trust, let's take a look at the documents involved. So I'm going to I'll open up just a regular trust. So this is typical. Now you'll never see this document. You're not entitled to see this document. Remember where we are. We are a buyer of a property, of a lot, and somebody has put it into a trust, and that's actually very secretive. They don't have to expose that trust to anybody, including us, even though we're buying their property. They don't have to expose it to a title company or a bank or anybody else. So that doesn't stop these people from asking to see a trust. And if you wanted to ask to see a trust, look, you can ask for anything. If they give it to you, great. But they're probably not going to want to. If they're smart, they won't. And so they've created this trust. They've got it in their bookwork somewhere. But inside this trust here, there'll be something like this, a Schedule A that says that they have this particular property and they own it and it's in the trust. So now the trust owns it. They don't own it anymore. This other entity owns it. Doesn't belong to them anymore, but they're entitled to it at some point, or they're entitled to have it, this third party that they gave it to, which is the trust. All right, now we can look at this as another person. The trust is another person, and the trustee is the actual live person that represents this legally created person, the trust. So when the trust needs to sell a property, the trust sells the property, And of course, the person who is the trustee, who's in charge and signing for that trust on behalf of that party, that's the person we need to have some information from. So we don't usually get to look at this, but inside here, technically what will happen is somewhere in the trust, there's going to be a trustee created and assigned, and that's the trustee. But we can't see this document, so we don't know if that's true or not. What if you're buying a property from John Smith, but you're talking to Reggie, let's say Reggie Doe, all right? So John Smith, Reggie Doe. We don't have any last name connection between Doe and Smith. Therefore, how do we know for sure if that's their trustee? Well, we have to have a legal document telling us that, and we can't, and we're not entitled to see this trust, which does lay it out here. It says the trustee, the trustee is assigned right up here. In this one, a trustee is assigned, but we can't see this document. So what do we do? Well, we have to ask, and this is how simple it is. We just ask them for this document right here, the certificate of trust or certificate of trustee. It goes by several different names depending on where you're reading. Okay, but what this does is it is saying that there was a trust that was created over here, which you're not entitled to see by law, by the way. However, we will show you all of this information here, telling you a little bit about the trust just so you know it legally exists. All right, so they're saying here, okay, well, this John Smith, whose address is whatever, entitled to trust, is title, and the way that the property will be titled on the deed or on ownership paperwork will be Smith Family Trust. John Smith is trustee. So right here, this is telling you who the trustee is and how it should look on a title to legally pass ownership from them to us. We're buying that property. We want legal title to that property, so we have to have the proper owner of that property, which is the Smith Family Trust. And currently, right now, John Smith is a trustee. And this is what changes from time to time. So even though they started out with a trust with, let's say, Reggie Doe, well, maybe this is 10 years later, Reggie either passed away himself or there was a divorce or anything could have happened. And Reggie's out of the picture totally now. So we are now at this point asking them, well, why don't we need to see a certification of trust or trustee so that we know who the current trustee is. So this is a living document that keeps getting changed over and over when it's needed. All right, when it's there's actually a situation, and in my head I'm going through the 10 different ways that this is used. I'm not going to tell you all, but it causes me to hesitate sometimes because I've seen all these different ways. At a bank, you can open a bank account for this, for example, or you're in a court or whatever. But these are the things. This is the actual document that you're going to provide, or they're going to provide you. Now, here's the problem. This document was often written up by the lawyer when Reggie Doe was the original trustee. So Reggie Doe, let's say that they were brothers, maybe brothers from a different mother, all right? So they formed the property trust, and they had ownership, but then, boy, they got into a fight, and man, they split, and it's gone. But the one person, John Smith, actually had ownership to the property, and at that time, he basically kicked Reggie out of being the trustee. Said, no, you're not my trustee of my property anymore. I don't trust you anymore. All right, so there he's gone. He's out of it. And Reggie didn't necessarily either have ownership. Remember, ownership is held by the trust, and the trust dictate who owns that property inside the trust. And we don't even care about that. See, that's not about us. We only care about who is the trustee of this property. That's all we care about, because that's the person who can legally convey the property, full ownership to us. It could have 1,000 owners in that trust. And that's another reason why people have a lot of trust. I just filed a deed yesterday, and there was 5 co-trustees, and they all had to sign. Talk about a nightmare. But so anyway, you run across this, and this is why you need to know this stuff, right? Okay, so once you know the mechanics, it works. Now let's keep going further. So this time, so Reggie's gone. Now John decided, hey, I'm just going to be my own trustee of my own property. So now we have this certification of trust being provided to us, and now John is saying that he's the trustee. The rest of the stuff is pretty much just boilerplate stuff. But look, this is where it really gets important, right here on this line. It says, I declare under penalty of perjury, under the laws of whatever state this is being, executed in, that everything up here is correct. What he's saying is, I'm swearing before, like I was in court, and you now can take me to court if I'm lying, that I'm the trustee of this trust and I have the right to convey. The minute this document is done and this is filed, man, this is a tough cookie to break, no matter what the situation is. I will say, it is a weakness in the way the laws are written. All right, if you think about it for a while, you can figure some of this stuff out. But man, I tell you, this is really as much as you need right here. You need to have a certification of trust telling you under penalty of perjury who the current trustee is. Therefore, we can trust that this transaction will go as planned, and we're not going to have a legal issue out of it. So this is something that's created oftentimes when the trust was set up by the family lawyer, let's say, for example. So when this happens, the lawyer for the people, sometimes they hold on to a copy of this. Let's say that they often do. Let's say that they often hold on to this document, put it in the file. But for that person now to call up the lawyer and ask for it, the payment's going to be made. And a lot of times these people don't want to have any more payments going out. That's the whole reason why they're selling to us. We can help prevent all of this stuff from happening. And by the way, side note, use this kind of stuff when you're dealing with them on a negotiation when you're buying. Oh, well, if you're dealing with me, I see it's in a trust. That's a whole legal framework, we can avoid, but I know how to avoid it. I can do all the paperwork. You don't have to go to your lawyer, pay your lawyer anything for the trust documents or all the conveyance information off of that deed. Now, we made it sound very, difficult, but it's really not. So what we're doing is we're saying at this point, I'm going to draw up the certification of trust for you. Let me give you an example. If you have a trust and you go to the bank can draw up the certification trust for you. If you go to a title company and you're closing at a title company, the title company can draw up the certification of trustee for you, and then they have the people sign it right there. That's how it's normally done, because a lot of people don't have this in their paperwork, or they can't go find it, or it's lost. So this document, since it's only active right now and it's only really pertinent to everything right now, it can be drawn up and sworn to, and it's a live legal document that now allows the trust to convey property to us. So all I need to do is go into the members area here, or what you need to do on a deal, and this is exactly what I do. I go in here, I draw up a certification of trust based upon their trust. So now I've gotten the legal documents. I see the legal description, which we don't need for a certification of trust, but I know who is the legal title owner by looking at that original deed. The original deed has the title, the way it's held here. In this case, let's say it's the Smith Family Trust. John Smith is trustee. So that's how it's going to show in the title. And all I have to do is copy that verbiage off the deed, put it into my autofill, where we do the autofill. So let's go take a look at this, because we are basically creating the certification of trust for them, and we create that certification in the living trust document. So fill in to create a living trust. The living trust creates both documents, the trust itself and the certification of trustee. In this case, we're not creating them their trust because they already have one. This was actually meant and built so you could create your trust so you can flip properties inside of a trust. And then you have the area to go and create your own certification of trust so you're not depending on banks or title companies or whatever. And it keeps it further private, because the only way, well, I'm not going to go into it. So you don't even need, that's like overkill. Okay, so the way that we create a certification of trust is we come in here and we just put the name of the trust up here. So these things in blue, these are the things that typically change anyway on trust, right? And all the rest of the stuff kind of stays the same for you if you're creating trust over and over. But in this case, we're going to have to put all of this information in. So we're going to put the trustor name. They've told us who the trustor name is, but not always. So most of the time I don't know this. You don't need to put this in here either, because in our certification of trust, we don't actually list the trustor in that document. So you don't need that in here. So all you need in here is the way that that thing is titled on the current deed, John Smith, whatever, the date of when that trust was created. If, and this again, I'm gonna take this out. I've got two things in my mind. It's gonna be confusing if I tell you about it. You don't have to have this. That can be blank, so you can leave that out. So you need the trustee's full name and you need the trustee's full address. All right, so let's take these two things out and take a look and see what that looks like, and the date. The situation here, we put all of this in and we're going to hit update right now. Now let's go back down and we will find the certification of trust, pull that up, and there it is. So the only information I put in here is what's showing here. And you'll see it's all filled out for you already, because that's all you needed to fill out. So now that we have this document filled out, and on a side note, just make sure your state here is correct, okay? That's why it's underlined there. And oftentimes if I underline something, those are the things you want to check. All right, so everything here underlined is things you need to check to make sure that it's correct. So once you do, you can print this document off, and then you send this off to the seller, which is the trustee in this case, right? You're usually dealing with a trustee. Now, oftentimes, let's say it's a husband and wife you're dealing with. Well, they're both the trust. They might be both the trustor, the owner of the trust, and they are also both trustee. They have the right to sign for the trust. And then that breaks down one more, which you need to know, and I always ask when I'm dealing with the trustee, which trustee can sign. So as soon as we write this document out, it's going to make whoever this is the only signer and legally can convey that property. That's what they swear to. So we know there's no other co-trustees that may have to sign. But if they say, well, we have it as co-trustees, then I ask, do you both have to sign to convey the property? And they'll tell you if that was the way the trust was written up. Sometimes though, they don't know. They don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know what you're talking about there, buddy. And in that case, boom, I just default, and I want to get both of their names on this trust, on the document, on the certification of trust. So I'll put them down as co-trustees, and it doesn't matter by default. It's safe legally to have more, but not safe legally to have less. So take this, create a double whammy on that trustee. It will then say Smith Family Trust, John Smith, and Mary Smith, its trustees. And boom, you're done. So you just go back in, change in the autofill, print this out. So then when at your closing, and again, mainly this is done for our self-closings that we do. When you send the deeds to be notarized and you're sending the check to be notarized, taking ownership from them to you, you'll also include this document and have the notary notarize this document when they're notarizing the other document. So you're getting You're getting the deed notarized, conveying property from the trust to you. You're getting a certification notarized from them, telling you legally who can convey that property to you. And then you're giving them, in essence, you're giving them the cashier's check. It's done. When these two documents come back, you can take these two documents and you file them at the courthouse. And now you've effectively conveyed that ownership from them to you, even though it was in a trust. And we've never even seen their trust, so we can't verify anything. We don't need to. That's what the certification of trust is. And I hope you guys got a lot from this training today, because this will make you a lot of money, because it has made me a lot of money just knowing the mechanics of this, allowing me to do deals that otherwise you just wouldn't do, or they wouldn't do. They just don't want to go to the trouble. They'd rather just skip on the deal and pass it. So let's go into questions if you have any questions today. Oh, also, by the way, hey, congratulations. Yesterday we had one of our members, Jason, close a deal using this strategy. And you know what he did? He was telling me that he was out driving around and he saw a lot. And he says, "Oh man, let me check this ownership out and to see where this owner lives." And so he used the land glide method that we talk about in our first video training. Pulled up the ownership and contacted him, got the letter out, negotiated it. It had a tax lien on it, not a tax lien, but it had back taxes about $1,500, I think you said, and some HOA fees, not much, and then. So those, of course, we don't have to pay, right? And then the guy accepted $450 for the lot. Amazing deal. Well, he flipped it, and he sold it for $14,000, and was able out of that, obviously, to pay off everything, and walked away with a nice profit. So congratulations. Really, really nice to see stories like that happening. And we've had another guy we were talking to, Doug. I'm not sure, I don't see Doug. Oh yeah, there you are, Doug. Doug's on here too. So Doug had a deal. I think you're probably in a couple deals now, but he had another deal accepted yesterday. So if you guys have not dug into the material and started the mailing, nothing will happen. You can't get deals. The way you get deals is by getting that mailing out. So it's a matter of, just like he did, essentially that was one letter that he sent out, right? You see a lot. And in fact, I was telling Doug yesterday on a coaching call, I was saying, look, if you're out there, if one of the things that I started right away understanding is when I see a lot that's got an old building on it, maybe it's an old mobile home. Around here, they'll be covered in vines, depending on, what your terrain is where you are. But it might be covered and hidden by trees. Sometimes I've just gotten a glimpse of, oh, there's a roof. There's a roof sticking out of the top of the trees. And I realize there's a house on it. Well, this creates a lot of problems for your owner, because they're thinking in their mind, nobody's going to want to buy this horrible house. You can't even get to it without cutting through brush and snakes, right? So this becomes an easy property for you to pick up. You can actually have, a junker like that hauled off or taken out, for less than a couple thousand. And if you look around, you can get it done for less than that. And if you're a guy that likes to play on giant the toys like Bobcats, you can kind of do it yourself and then hire a smaller crew to take that and dump it into a garbage bin. So on the low end, you hire out, if you want to do this, I would never do this, but you can hire out and pull in a dumpster, right? $600 or whatever. And rent or just find a guy with a Bobcat to go out there and tear whatever it is down and dump it in there and done, So you can do it on a dime. However, in your negotiation, it's a $2,000 or $3,000 job that we're talking to that owner with, and you can really beat it up, because now he's just selling a lot. He's not selling a house. You're saying, obviously we're not buying the lot there. The house, but I'm just asking what where we are on the lot, et cetera, et cetera. So that you're going for the lot, and then you bring up the problem with the house that's there, and you ask, are you going to remove that house? And now it's suddenly, oh, okay, now I have to deal with it. Well, let me, trim some more off of that. Depending on where you are in the negotiation, these are just little things you'll pick up the longer you do the negotiations. the better you'll get at them. But it doesn't matter. You can just buy that lot for whatever, and boom, have that removed. Now, there's a second layer. You always have, and we talked about this briefly, but now we're adding into a house, and these are just little side notes because we've got some extra time here. So if I did buy a property, and I have done this over and over, where there's just a mobile home, you cannot live in this mobile home. So it's like, or a regular house. I've had those where it's just, they're sideways already falling. You would never even walk inside there because you could die. All right, that's how bad these things are. Well, I don't generally clean them up. I'm doing volume. All right, but if I were just doing one, I might want to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to clean this up, and I can bring up the price on the retail side when I'm going to flip it. Now my price goes way up, not by much, but it's going to go up at least $5,000 to $6,000, if not more. If I had the crew there, I would just make sure the rest of the lot's clean. Now I've got a perfectly great looking lot that's clean, and you're easy at the $6,000 to $10,000 more area. Not always, but sometimes. This is another reason why I don't, because if I'm at a $5,000 profit margin by cleaning a property and it costs me $2,000 to clean it, that's $3,000, and for me, that's not worth the extra trouble and time that I've got to go through to babysit that operation and then go out there and look and make sure it's done right and all that. I'm not even going to go look at the property. This is why I'll take the property. I don't care. I'll negotiate it like I have to clean it, because you have to, in essence, build that in. But I'm not going to sell it like that. I'm going to sell it as is. I'm going to say almost 100% of my properties I have sold as is. Trying to think if I cleaned one. I think I cleared a little bit on one because it was 5 acres and it was just a beautiful piece of property and had a water well and everything on it. And got it for a song and sold it. And the guy is actually trying to sell it right now. He's got it up. He's trying to sell it. He hasn't had much luck. But it's all about pricing, right? You can sell anything cheap, but when you're trying to get high retail for a lot, that's not working. Okay, so let's see. Do I want to finish off with anything else? I did want to make a mention. So some of you guys saw that I mentioned this Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins event coming up next Tuesday night. And I'll get a link out to everybody for that, because I looked at it now. I've gotten more involved in it, and I knew it had to be great, right? Coming together, I knew it had to be great because you got two guys on the cutting edge of technology and what's going on out there on the internet in our space, the entrepreneur space. They're at the top, all right? So they're at the top of that rung, and you always want to see what they're doing, because they have webs, like a spider web that goes in a million different directions, and every once in a while this guy over here will figure out something. Oh, this guy just made $1 million. This guy made $1 million. This guy did something and made $1 million using this technique, and that streams up to them. They get that information. That's just how this works in this business. So then they basically are able to come back and tell you, oh, okay, I'm putting a program together and I'm going to sell it to you, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you how to do this, this, and this, and we know it works. And so sometimes they've done it in their own business, and I've seen some of the things they're doing now. Of course, they've done their. I already know. I know what the back end is. I know what the software is, and so I know that was working. That's what got me interested. And I came in from the back, the software side of it, and so this is quite fascinating. So they're coming up with a launch, which is Tuesday night at 7 Central. And we all know Central Time is the only time that counts. And but that's going to be a great event. I think you will like it. Now, I think most of you listening here can probably, you might be able to utilize it if you want to. I can't give too much away because they don't want us to. But as an affiliate, they put the shackles on to some degree. But I will tell you this. You look at that and see if that's something that you would like, because I already have been in the back and I've seen the software that they're talking about. And I've seen how the coaching side of it goes and what the training side of it, and it is over the top great, over the top great, amazing stuff. So they've done a great job, and I'm going to utilize that obviously even in my business. So the tools and everything, the training, they have some great training stuff that it's coming from the people out there already doing some things that are successful. And instead of you trying to fumble your way around and try and figure out, well, I would like to create this group. Instead of doing that, you can just shortcut yourself, and that's always the best. Just like learning how to flip property. If you want to learn how to flip property, you come to a guy like me who's been doing it now solid since, well, actually, of course, I go way back to the 1980s, but just as one thing that's really working right now in today's economy, in today's market, with today's mentality and everything, and using the current software and everything, you would want to talk to me. And there's some other people out there, and to me, they're like one step behind, obviously, because a lot of those guys don't have the background and some of the other things that I bring. I don't know. I bring some things, obviously, to the market that other people don't bring. And a lot of that's because I think differently, very creatively. And you guys know, because of all the stuff I've created over the years that have made a lot of people a lot of money. But it just shortcuts you when you can utilize somebody like these guys who have the connections. And some of you hate these people. Sometimes I don't like them. Sometimes I love them. All right. So if they've inspired me with something, or they've done something, and I say, oh, I know what's behind that, and I know that was great. So those guys do have my respect. There's a bunch of people who have my respect. Anyway, if most people who work really hard and they're they're out there, and about them, whether you love them or hate them. Even a guy like Joel Osteen, I got half of you guys hate him and half of you guys like him. Maybe not half, maybe very few. But it's like anybody. There's greatness within them. It's just not all going to be pretty. And so if you want to concentrate on the unpretty start, you can. Or you can say, you know what, we all have flaws. Let's divide that out, and let me see what's working for this guy right here. Because if I can use that to help me get something better for my family, isn't that really, at the end of the day, all that matters? We could go into all kinds of examples. I'm not. It's a waste of time. Everybody gets the point. But I hope today that you've enjoyed this. I'm going to get a link out to you, and I'll have a link below here, hopefully by tonight. So if you're on Twitch, I'll have a link here. If you are on one of my social media sites, you'll see a link below that will get you to the party that they're having on Tuesday night with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. And if you're using my affiliate link, because I'm affiliate obviously with them, if you're using that, of course, some bonuses are coming your way, as I've done before, because I don't do this very often. I think I did it once with Jeff Walker, and I did it with a commercial guy. I looked at a couple of different flipping commercial deals, and it was pretty good. The systems were pretty good, and I went with one guy, and so that was the guy I went with. So I don't often do affiliate programs, but if it's something I can see that helps me, or that could help you, and you have to look at it first to see if you think it could help you, then it definitely is worth watching and going through. I love the software. I'm just saying right now, that software is a game changer. If go through the video, go through the stuff, and they're sending out some video. They'll send out some videos right ahead of the event as well. But look at this thing on. They're going to go through the details. They're not doing much on these pre-launch details, but they will. They will get into the nuts and bolts on it Tuesday night, and see if that works. Because if that's something you can see yourself doing and going there, then I can assure you the software they put in the back is off the chart. And I have seen and access to the latest, greatest stuff out there in software wise. And it's not so much software, but it's their online system. So you just, you tap into the system, and now you have all this stuff, sort of like our autofill stuff here. But I mean, it makes my autofill stuff looks like, the 1930 stuff. Although this little thing right here, of course, we all know, will make you money, and it doesn't matter what it, maybe what it looks like, but their stuff is sharp and it works. So that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, if we have any questions, we'll finish up with it. Hey, Nate, I see you in there too. Good to have you here. We just talked with Nate last night. And so let's go ahead, and I'm going to finish up because there's a lot I've got to do today. You guys are backing me up a little because I've got my stuff I've got to get out. And I've got several things I've got to do here. So I will get these two videos up. I've got the other one done, so that one's going up, I think, right now for Tuesday, where we mapped out everything. But this one may not go up it may not go up till later tonight. All right, well, thanks everybody. We will see you back on Tuesday, next Tuesday, same time.